Okay, interesting episode of the podcast today. Victoria couldn't make it, and we wanted to make sure that the message still got out. So I am here alone, a solo episode of Frequency Broads. Okay, I felt like still meeting to sit and speak with you this week was important because many factors. There is so much going on in the world right now, and we are finishing up the energies of January, heading into February, starting to feel the melt and the thaw, even though in New York, I know they just got a huge blizzard, and I know half the country too. But that thaw from winter is starting. I shouldn't say thaw yet, but just there's no extra freeze layer, I guess. We're starting to come out of the winter a little bit, that rest and reflect. The year of the snake is wrapping up. When this comes out, we'll have about a week and a half to 2 weeks before the Lunar New Year. And every day there is something new that makes your heart wrench. Just hopefully a duality of my God and my God. That joy and that frustration that we're all experiencing. And what I want to talk to today is just what the energy is of heading into the fire horse year, heading into February, and how that is playing a perfect mirror into what we are seeing in the collective, what we are seeing out in the world. So first and foremost, let me talk to the energy of the year of the fire horse. It will start on February 17th. So we've been still shaking up the last tail bits of the snake. Funny enough, my bearded dragon, Tommy, he just randomly shed, actually yesterday, a piece of his tail towards the end. And I was like, what the hell? So literally everyone is taking off that last little piece of skin as the tail whips around. So we're getting hit hard right now. And that swing of the tail is the start of the momentum for the fire horse year. It really flicks us right into movement, right into literally the horse itself. So I was sitting with this energy yesterday, even though it's been starting to instill inside me for this past month, which has been nice to marinate in it and try to understand it. But basically, the year of the fire horse is going to be momentum. It's going to be quick. It's going to be activation, change, transmutation. Whatever you are embodying is coming back to you quick, and it's coming back to you tenfold. Okay. And that includes new frequencies that are starting to land here on Earth. Okay. So I think one piece that I want us to I'm going to try to throw a lot at you pretty quickly right now. So take a breath, because I do not have Victoria to ground me. So I got a page full of stuff to share. We tend to put up our shields to protect ourselves from this energy coming in that we don't want, keeping us separate from that. And it's definitely needed. But I think with the year of the horse and the first year of this new cycle, this cycle of co-creation, end of a 9-year cycle plus, right? There's 100 and something year cycle 2 that closed out. God, there's just so much happening right at this precipice of the end of January, beginning of February, whether you look at it astrologically, whether you look at it through these cycles that we're seeing, or just history literally repeating itself. Now there's also this understanding that there's new frequencies coming in, and that's because we're capable of holding more than we've ever been, right? So there's a lot at play. And if we just put up this wall, we're missing a beautiful opportunity. One, to feel into new signatures that are coming onto earth, but 2, because all energy is going to be that gift. And it's a gift of momentum, and it's a gift of energy. Energy without a signature, right? That is the gift. Because you have the ability, instead of it just hitting the wall, let it hit the factory and change and alchemize and transmutate and purify and whatever, and then come to you either cleaned or a completely different frequency signature, but it's still free energy, whether it be from the cosmos, what's happening collectively, internally. So let this be a year of quick transmutation and quick, like I said in the previous episode, it becomes like a factory, right? This energy comes in. Before it hits where I need it to hit, I'm going to have it go through the car wash. I'm going to have it go through the factory. So there's a lot of this like churning happening, right? Which causes the emotional feelings and experiences of like rushing, the need to move fast, the need for change, the momentum, the like it's like we woke up, we've been in this like despair, and I know we still hold that too, like despair and like heaviness, and like it's gotten to a point where somebody finally lit the match, right? And that's the year of the fire horse. The match is lit, and it's just like coming in hot. So it's really important for you to keep yourself clear. Don't get bogged down, because this energy is going to come in so quickly that if we're not having a clear process of transmutation before it lands, you are not just getting the wisdom that you're supposed to receive from this energy frequency signature, whether that be from somebody else, from what you're getting intuitively, what's happening cosmically. If you're not clear, you're not just getting the information, the wiseness, the wisdom, the wiseness. You're also getting a lot of other particles, for lack of a better word, that are going to activate your nervous system in a multitude of ways. And then that becomes exhausting. And it's already exhausting enough to run through the factory, but now we're going to add that added layer of like getting dirty energy, for lack of a better word. That is also why it's extremely important to really make sure we are letting go of the old that no longer serves us. And I'm going to get more into the collective space of that, but to just land it here, that means the habits, the narratives, the relationships, the activities, careers, whatever you do, either completely or like to a capacity, in moderation, setting boundaries, do you need to let go of? Because the energy of that, right, whatever you're connected to is coming in tenfold, fast and stronger. The connection to that, something you're holding you're not supposed to hold, is going to burn you. It's going to be real, like, hurtful energetically and emotionally. So making sure that we kind of drop those old things, and then that also burns and alchemizes and creates this space within you for the new. And that's another piece of this fire horse energy, is with those new frequencies, it's new seeds of potential that are dropping into you right now. But here's the crazy part. And I feel like I got to go slow here. It's hard without Victoria. You're going to get these seeds of inspiration, these ideas, these gut feelings, these like drives, goals start to set. And with the tail whip, that tail whip is also causing inspiration, right? You're seeing what you don't like and you're like, ooh, inspired not to do that anymore, inspired to go in this direction. But also the energy of the fire horse, it's going to be divine, masculine, heavy, right? Goal setting, action, movement, fire. Like, let's go. We have the energy, the power, the resiliency, the intention, the momentum, all we need to just go straight for something. because I got this seed of inspiration, because I was like, oh, that's a good idea. Inspired by others, inspired by intuition, whatever it may be. I see this and it feels like that spark of inspiration, and I'm going to run with it, and I'm going to run with it really fast. And we need that, right? If we look at the cycles astrologically, which if you've been listening to us for a while, you know is not really my forte, but as said by people I trust, it's the same cosmically that was happening during the Civil War, during like all of these major pivotal points in history when the collective rose against the systems at B. But there's also this new energy coming in the age of Aquarius, and so many things landing in that sign that we get to choose differently, right? We're coming in with all this wisdom. The birth of this new year, the letting go of the skin was like I said previously, letting go of all the pain and all the experience itself and just taking the wisdom. So we're trying to let go of all of these things. So where this is a very divine masculine energy that we're all going to be experiencing, it's really important to balance that with the divine feminine. So taking pause, taking a breath, reading the mood, feeling intuitively like, what can we do? How can we beautify this? How can we tend to it? When we do things for just that like beauty and tending sake, it kind of helps us play with time a little bit because it's not permanent. We're just like expanding that time because we're in the space of creation, which is kind of like that flow state. And if we don't bring the divine feminine into this fire horse energy, it's going to lead us to have a trigger finger. It's going to lead us to be grasping at straws when we get that inspiration to say, I need to do something. This isn't working. I need to change something. Boom, here's my inspiration. I'm going to run for it. And I think it's extremely important always, but especially right now, for us to pause, read the room, read the space, critically think, do your research if we're looking at like a legit 3D experience, not like an energetic thing. And then that momentum is still there. A message that is, for the month of February too, is to remember that it feels like we're running out of time. And in some capacity we are, because shit needs to change before it gets worse. But at the same time, we're not running out of time in the sense that we should rush into things without fully thinking about them. A lot of what we're upholding is the need to change so that way everyone is treated with kindness, compassion, respect, that we are equal, that we steward the earth in a way that tends to her instead of harming her. We're all trying to make things better. And when we rush, there's a chance that we're missing a piece of that, right? There's so many perspectives, so many voices at the table that deserve to be heard, that deserve to be thought about. And if we got this trigger finger and we're grasping at straws because we feel the inspiration and we're following that momentum, there's a high chance we're going to forget something. So bringing in that pause is not you running out of time. It's not you wasting your time. It's you using your time wisely. It's you stepping into the feminine to expand the time, to say, hold on, I can pause this moment right here and I can think about, what are the consequences? What is the outcome that I'm looking for? Is this specific action what's going to take me to the end point or closer to the end point, the one that I want to be at? Or is this just the first spark of momentum that I want to go in towards this direction, but I don't know which path to get there yet? And that breath allows you to really analyze, how are you going to get there? And be as successful as possible with the wisdom that you have, When we're grasping at straws, we are not accessing our internal wisdom, our wisdom from experience, or our opportunity to gain more wisdom through research and critical thinking. Something that they don't want you to be doing, right? When we're looking at the energetics as it relates to what's happening on the earth collectively and in a human sense, we don't shy away from the fact that we're not the only ones playing with this energy, right? So is the other side. They understand the momentum. They understand that you're going to be grasping at straws. They've been starving us of humanity, of healthcare, of food, of safety. So it's going to make us grasp at straws. And when they know that, and we're predictable, then they can place the straws there, right? They can choose what's going to be within our grasp. So when we're pulling that trigger finger fast and not pausing and thinking about it and like looking at our options, that we're going to do something that may not be as beneficial as we had hoped it to be. I think with that point as well, it's important to recognize that there is still many clear and unclear levels of privilege that we hold on to because we're scared not to have it. Because that if we're truly equal, then we're equally in danger, right? So recognizing that there is still a level of privilege that you are holding on to, still a level of convenience and comfort that you are holding on to that is perpetuating the issue. And that has to come into account as well when you're making this decision, right? That doesn't mean that it's always going to be pleasant because you're closer to the outcome that you want. Like I said, if we're all equal, we're equally in danger or equally safe, hopefully, as we continue on the right path. So I think it's important, we talk a lot about like, you have to take care of yourself. If you need to separate from that, like tend to yourself for sure. But make sure you're not tending to yourself as an avoidant tactic from the uncomfortable and the less convenient because you're used to a certain level of convenience and comfort. I will say my new mantra is let it be spiritually convenient. Meaning like the quickest way to the good outcome, even if it's got to be shitty along the way. But when we have this nice balance of knowing that we need to tend to ourselves and that this is going to be uncomfortable, change is uncomfortable, alchemy is uncomfortable, when people are being treated like nothing, equality means that you're going to be lumped in with that experience of nothingness. When you can hold the balance of those two things, that I think is the most potent potentiality space for 2026. Having the fire horse, divine masculine inspiration coming in, having the momentum, and knowing that divine feminine can have expansiveness and pause and really think about the choices that we're making and what am I contributing to? What systems am I still perpetuating because of fear, real fear, not perceived fear, real fear that if I don't show up in this way, I'm going to be hurt or I'm not going to have what I need. Like that's valid and that's really scary. But people have been feeling that every day their whole life for centuries. Okay. For sure. If you're not watching, my computer just did this weird thing where a little bubble came up and gave me a thumbs down when I said that. And my thumb was not down. My thumb was actually up. Not like naturally, not in a thumbs up. Anyway, yeah, it's really important to hold that balance. And I think a good example that I want to share with you that I think is extremely important to share because it's something that's being acted upon now, is this concept of filing tax exempt. Now, before I talk about this, I am not saying that it is the right answer to file tax exempt or to not file tax exempt, because that is your choice to make when you do your own research and critical thinking. But what I want to just bring attention to, because I myself was one of these people, was hearing it, having it be marinated around me, and then have it be very direct of like, hey, tax strike 2026, we're going to do this. And right, there's that seed of inspiration and the firehorse energy of like, oh, fuck, I'm in. And then, like riding that sacred rage where you're just like, I'm fucking done with this. Like, this needs to change. You know what? You're not going to get my money. Like, and I'm not saying that those aren't bad points or those are bad points. Like, I still very much feel that way. But that energy then, right, at the point when I saw that and kind of started talking to other people about it, and partially in my mind committing to that because it felt right. And I was seeing people talk about it, and those people were very passionate and they had the tools for me to get there, and like the steps and the explanation and the forms. And I was like, okay, this is doable. Talk about Skillshare 2026. Here we go. You know how to work a government website. Thank you for sharing that with me. And those things are super important because they're extremely hard to navigate. And never mind, here I am personally doing research on government websites and making sure that I'm looking at valid resources, still with a grain of salt, knowing that I cannot even trust government websites anymore to its full extent in the way that I used to, or how I was taught to do research. But then everyone just kind of signed up and was like, here I am. I'm just going to I'm going to follow this person who I trust, who are good people, who have good intent, who found out this research for me without kind of really sitting and taking the breath, just riding the momentum. So I really tried to take a breath with that. I really tried to step into the feminine and be like, well, what is the world that I want to create? I want to create a world where people are fed, are housed, are educated, are cared for equally. That we're not struggling, And long story short, I can get into the numbers, I can get into the statistics, I can get into how I did my research, but I'm sure you don't want to fucking hear that. But my personal conclusion was that I feel that if I withheld my taxes, they don't give a fuck. They're just going to borrow more money and put more debt on our country, which your income taxes, a percentage of that goes towards the debt that we're in. So all I'm doing is making a larger debt, or my understanding or thought behind that is I don't want to cause larger debt to the country for when all this shit is over, because it will eventually be over. I don't want to play their game where they're like, aha, I've starved you so much, you needed to resort to crime. And now I can take even more of your freedoms away, right? I can take more of your money away, or, what have you. Even just in interest. I'm not even saying like you're a criminal, but like just in interest towards taxes that I did not pay. And then also we see this administration straight up giving the middle finger to our face. Us withholding taxes and them just printing more money or borrowing more money. They're not going to turn around and say, you got us, guys. Good job. And maybe to some extent to play the other side, because I'm not saying I have the right answer. I'm saying what I feel. Maybe on the other side, if there is enough people who do that, it does make a big enough dent that like they're like, oh, fuck. Right? But in my head, my thought is their oh, fuck will be just shoving it in our face again, cutting more of our healthcare, cutting more of our education, cutting more of our support programs. Because they're not going to cut funding to militarizing the government or the country. So just that breath itself made me pause and say, okay, well, if the momentum is still that I don't want them, they're not representing me, and I want something that does represent me, then I'm going to think about, how do I do things to create a world that I think will help lead others and represent the world that I want to build. Because guess what? The education we have doesn't foster that kind of learning and experience to build the life that I think needs to be on this earth. The healthcare system doesn't. The systems we have for, child support services, food stamps, low-income housing, shelters, mental health services are shit in this country compared to other places. So how can I stop relying on those systems so I don't even care if you don't fund it? And again, there's some level of privilege there, of course. But I think we do that by not relying on our education system to educate our children. And I'm not blaming the teachers, because I'm one of them. If you can't afford a private school or to work in a private school, and you are in a public school that is changing for the worst, yeah, maybe you still send your child there if that's what you need to, because your child needs food, a place to go while you're at work, those kinds of things. Do that. But then you make sure that they are surrounded by people and are being educated on what they're not getting educated in the school. Don't rely just on the healthcare system. Start to learn how to make home remedies. Use herbal remedies. Make sure you're taking care of your body to the best of your ability so you don't have to rely on them. Skill share with one another. Learn how to tend to your land. Understand that we don't need to rely on them as much as we are relying on them, even for safety. When ICE is coming around, they're not fucking calling the police. They're calling their community to come out and yell at them, to chase them, to record them. That's what's making the difference, because we are not relying on old systems that we don't want to rely on anyway, that aren't working for us. So when you're getting that fire horse, it's thinking about breath. What is it that I actually want to use this energy to push me towards? And how do I get there? Speaking of money, going back to tax exempt, something I saw and have done a little less research on because it only just came to my mind, was not tax exempt, but, well, first of all, Andrew said we should be net zero. Why are we giving them extra tax money and then getting a rebate? For sure. Didn't even think that. But if we all just went and demanded our money out of the banks, the government uses the money that we put in the banks to play with. It's not in there physically. So if we all ask for it and they are required to give it to us, crashing the banks, working more specifically in cash when you can. Obviously, a lot of us are paid on the books. If you can get paid off the books and not even get tracked, that's a different story. But at least not letting them track where our money's going, paying small businesses, fighting at your local government, which I'm going to try to do more. Being at those meetings, being inspired by Andrew, using my voice in that way and demanding pay raises for working class people so they can afford small business prices, so they have a living wage, right? These are the things for me that I can take action in that are actually going to enact change in the way that I want it to, without grasping at straws and playing into their hand. There was this quote from this video that I kind of want to play, but trying to fight fascism with anti-fascism isn't going to work, because they know that playbook. So we're predictable. We're either the passive, overwhelmed, bogged down by fear and overstimulation from rapid news, or we're angry and rioters and, that's the two narratives they're spinning. So when we play into that, beautiful. They know exactly how to work with us. And I came across this video from somebody talking about the inflatable animals in Portland and what that really means. And honestly, I'm going to just play it because the way this person speaks about it is so powerful and it's stuck with me. And I think that, and I'll like link it, whatever, or link him, but I'm like, I'm just going to have you listen to it, to be honest. So let me pull it up. Also, I'm back on my black and white grind and game changer. My attention span is so much better. And the colors are so terrible on your phone when you have black and white after a while and you finally take it off. Okay, here we go.
Select few using the inflatable costumes to denote a message of peaceful and joyful resistance. We, however, are not interested in peace. This is not the time for peace. That is not an option on the table. Fascism has arrived. The state is building concentration camps. Trump's secret police are engaged in explicit ethnic cleansing. Do not confuse our adorable form with passivity. We are uncomfortably aware that there is no comfortable way out from here. You see, Operation Inflation is about one thing: disorienting fascist control of the narrative landscape. We are not responding to violence with nonviolence. We are not responding to excessive force with whimsy. We are responding to fascism with anti-fascism.
Oh, okay, well, I said that wrong.
Constant reduction of social phenomena, for their loyalists are incredibly gullible, emotional, resentful, and stupid. Every complex nuance of social political life must be reduced to snapshots and disarming talking points. Eruptions of social unrest and public refusal become riots. The riot becomes dichotomous, and you're assigned a role: violent rioter or peaceful protester. Then the naive carry forth and proclaim, the fascists want you to be timid and peaceful, or the fascists want you to be violent and reactive. Little do they realize the fascists require both. The fascists want you predictable, you see. Predictability is legibility. Legibility is capture. The moment your action becomes narratable within their fiction, you've already lost. You're performing your assigned role in their script, whether radical left terrorist or cringe whiny libtard. This is not about pacifism. This is not about proving protesters are good or peaceful to win sympathy. An inflatable costume engaging in property destruction is absurd. A wall of cartoon animals impeding an ICE vehicle is absurd. Inflatables could storm the Capitol and the fascist fiction still collapses. It still refuses the script all the same. The power isn't in moral contrast. It's in categorical refusal. The form itself denies the narrative.
Okay, you get the gist. And I'm glad that I played it because obviously I said it wrong. But it's basically what we've been talking about for the past year. It comes down to you enacting your free will, you thinking outside the box, right? Not relying on these systems, being so absurd that they cannot predict what you're going to do, because when you're predictable, then you're controllable. Basically, I'm like looking at my notes here. That is kind of what I really want to make sure we understand. You can see 50 million videos about the fire horse energy, but the importance of holding duality. It's the yin yang. You can't just always keep running, burning, and all that. You'll burn out very fast. So we have to bring in the divine feminine, the space, the expansiveness, the breath, the looking at it in all directions, seeing all outcomes, and then choosing. You have time. In that sense, you have time. That momentum you're not going to lose that momentum of the fire horse. We're so used to energy coming in, burning fast and disappearing. No, we have this entire year to access this energy. So do not rush using it, if that makes sense. And making sure that we're taking care of our physical body and emotional and mental bodies, so that way we can be running this energy, transmuting it, changing it into something else, using that momentum, but also thinking about it perfectly, or not perfectly, but the best of your ability. So that way we use the momentum in the right way, because it comes tenfold back. We're at the same precipice time that we've seen cosmically during many civil unrest periods. But I think we have a new level of wisdom and a new frequency that's coming into the earth that we actually can choose differently. and we can make change. And I really do have hope that is as like at a climax as it's getting, that after the climax is the falling action, right? Is the time where things start settling and coming to a resolution. And I do think that revolution, I was going to say resolution is revolution, but I mixed that up. So for February specifically, I think what I also want to bring to the table is the importance of coming back to being human and seeing other people as human. And when we allow for breath, we're more likely to do that. Because if you think about a debate, you trying to get someone on the other side to like come to your side, right? See that this is a genocide, see that this is like terrible and straight up murder. If you're not willing to be open to their humanness, then they won't be open to your humanness. And I just mean that you can have an understanding, not necessarily empathy or sympathy, but an understanding of why their humanness makes them believe this way, whether it be because of fear or past experience or anger or indoctrination. And that doesn't mean that you accept that, but when we can see them as human and stop just like hurling facts at them, like left and right, that they're just going to try to dodge so that way they don't even need to like take in anything that you're saying. Like, let's try to connect. I saw this quote that said, all relationships are a collective healing journey. And if we want to not repeat history, clearly we're here again because we didn't change these people's minds when we won World War II, when the American Revolution happened. We didn't change anyone's mind. We just told them they were wrong and we put them away, which just made them angry and continue to harbor their terrible narratives until they popped out again and they're Nazis and they're the KKK. It's just the same fucking people because we're not actually doing anything to change the perspective, to change the humanness within them. So if we can understand that all relationships are a healing journey, then that means relationships in the aspect of not just friendships, families, lovers, but also any person that has an exchange. So coming back to the humanness this month for sure, and really just trying to get clear. I think that the two first steps here are coming back to humanness so that way we can remember what we want to bring into the world, and taking breath before we use this momentum in a direction that's not going to be helpful. And then I asked for a final message for the collective, and I got, surprise, surprise, the crumble. That a shift is happening, that the unauthentic can't survive. These are defining moments and will be reborn after the fire. So stop trying to hold it all together so that way it can crumble. And then the other one was Lumeria, which is about creating heaven on earth and like having a clear vision so that way you know what you're creating. And I think those two cards speak to the year of the fire horse overall, right? It's going to be this rebuilding, and we have to come back to humanness and we have to slow down because the momentum is going to stay there. All right. Isn't it funny that with Victoria, episodes are about like 45 minutes to an hour? And alone, I can get to 45 minutes. Thanks for listening. Hang in there. Clearly, it's heavy and we're all feeling it, but I have hope. I have hope if we all like really get it together with the yin yang of this year, then I think it's going to be a huge turning point for the collective in such a good way. Never mind that I think Trump is dying in the next couple months, to be honest. I don't know if he'll make it to midterms, but we shall see. Good luck. Love ya.